Coming up, can this spike new interest in aviation in the newest generations? An exclusive interview with the director of Disney's planes. We're still waiting for an answer, CBP. Eating is good for flying, and a final goodbye to a friend. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment. Mr. Commissioner, pilots are waiting for an answer. Hello everyone, I'm Tom Haynes. It's good to be back. Thanks for watching AOPA Live this week. 1 week, and the Customs and Border Patrol Commissioner has not yet said anything about our letter. The letter in which AOPA asks, what authority exactly does CBP have to detain pilots and search aircraft deep inside the U.S.? Guess we really shouldn't have expected anything so soon. After all, it's been 135 days since we submitted the first Freedom of Information Act request to CBP. The law, oh by the way, requires them to respond within 20 days. And here's another example of how CBP may push the envelope a bit. This is a document CBP sent to other law enforcement agencies some 2 years ago. There are numerous things wrong with it, including telling officers that pilots must carry their logbooks, maintenance records, and 337 forms with them and show them to officers immediately. AOPA told them about their mistakes, and they corrected some, but not all. But the original incorrect document is still in the hands of many law enforcement agencies. And that's why AOPA created this new kneeboard reference card to tell you how to react if CBP agents or other law enforcement officials demand your papers and want to search your aircraft. Read it carefully, but the bottom line is that they can ask to see your pilot credentials and your aircraft registration. And despite what some CBP agents think, there's no law that says you have to show your weight and balance calculations if you're flying under Part 91. And remember, if you've been ramp checked by a law enforcement officer other than an FAA inspector, we'd sure like to know about it. You can send an email to gasecurity@aopa.org or call the AOPA Pilot Information Center. The number is on your screen. Turning now to something much more positive for aviation. In a little over a month, a new aviation movie will hit the theaters. Set above the world of Disney's cars, planes will turn kids' eyes to the sky. AOPA Live's Paul Harrop traveled to Hollywood for a rare look behind the scenes at Disney Toon Studios and an exclusive interview with the film's director.
This little ag plane is about to become a household name.
Why, hello, ladies. You ready to lose?
Last one to the water tower. Buys a round of fuel.
Tell you what, I'll give you guys a head start. You're gonna need it.
Later, loser.
1,000.
The star of our movie is Dusty Cropphopper. He's this little PT-6 engine. He's based on 3 different types of aircraft. And he lives out in the Midwest of America. And he has this desire to be able to do more.
Dusty wants to become an air rally racer. There's just one problem.
See ya, sucker! I'm afraid of heights.
That airplane needs some help. Y'all know that, right?
Yeah!
From his humble beginnings in Prop Wash Junction, Disney's Planes follows Dusty's drive to the top.
Ballistic!
He's ready.
Hey, look who made it. It's Rusty.
Dusty Cropphopper.
Farm boy.
Aside from the life lessons Dusty helps kids learn along the way, director Clay Hall wanted the film to share his lifelong love of aviation.
It also was about the magic of flight and the essence of flight and how beautiful flying can be. And I wanted our audience to experience that.
Hall's creative team went to great lengths to do research. He wanted to make the airplanes as realistic as they could be.
And it's all about authenticity, Paul. It's all about the believability of what's going on in front of you. We wanted to really support the idea that these are real things. These planes really do exist. Now the challenge is that they have eyes and they talk. So it's real easy to slip into sort of a cartoony kind of thing. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to have basically real planes with fun personalities.
The film accomplishes it with a cast of characters you'd recognize from the flight line. including the gruff but lovable mentor and F4U Corsair named Skipper, and El Chupacabra, a GB who carries the comic relief.
We will have many adventures. We will laugh. We will cry. We will dance. Probably not with each other.
The authenticity will surprise pilots in the audience, and the story will inspire aviators of all ages.
And it's that classic underdog story that he gets involved with who he is, and competing against the best of the best.
Will Dusty Crowdpopper take home the gold? Well, find out when the movie hits theaters on August 9th.
I spoke earlier this week to a Reno air racing champ who says he was brought in as a consultant on the film. So obviously General Aviation helping to make the movie a success, and many people in the aviation industry are hoping that the movie helps further the success of General Aviation by making the next generation of pilots look towards the sky. In Hollywood, Paul Harrop, AOPA Live. Tom?
All right, thank you, Paul. Looks like a lot of fun. And you know, you don't have to wait until the film comes out to see it. There'll be a special screening this year at AirVenture. And speaking of AirVenture, otherwise known as Oshkosh to all of us old-timers, the big event is just 1 month away, and our friends at EAA are well into preparing the grounds. The AOPA tent is already up, and when you get there, you'll find some cool stuff inside, including a chance to fly the new AOPA J flight simulator. And we will broadcast special editions of AOPA Live this week on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Hope to see you there. Well, when was the last time you got a DF steer? Or how about shot an MLS approach? Yeah, me neither. Yet there are still questions about these obsolete technologies on the FAA's knowledge test.
We want to make sure that the pilots have the knowledge that they need to fly safely, with the skills that they need to fly effectively, with more importantly the risk management. And all of those are encapsulated by the Airman Certification Standard. So if we have terms and technologies that are not referenced in the standard, then we should take them out. This was a first step in taking out the obsolete terms and technologies. And it really shows a nice partnership of the FAA willing to listen to industry and take stuff that isn't relevant and important for the airmen to know out of the existing test bank.
AOPA and other members of the Airman Testing Standards and Training Working Group are working to bring training and testing into the 21st century. Eliminating obsolete questions is only a small part of that effort. Coming up after the break, why you really should file a flight plan and a look back at a storied career. Welcome back. You're watching AOPA Live this week. The U.S. Navy has a new bird. The carrier version of the F-35C Lightning II flew into Eglin Air Force Base in Florida for the Navy's Strike Fighter Squadron 101. The fifth-generation fighter will be flown by all the services and some U.S. allies. Navy, Marine, and Air Force pilots trained together on the F-35 at Eglin. Well, 27 days. Yep, still no answer from FAA to ICON about that weight increase. Meanwhile, ICON says it has raised $60 million in investment capital to ramp up production on the A5 amphibious light sport, assuming they ever get that answer from an FAA. But the FAA is talking to Piper. The agency recently granted a type certificate to incorporate the Garmin G1000 avionics suite into new twin-engine Seminoles, and that makes the Garmin box standard on just about all of Piper's new aircraft. Will you always file a flight plan or use flight following? One grieving father thinks you should. This week on AOPA.org, we have the heartbreaking story of an aircraft crash in the mountains of Utah. A small girl survived for days, but rescuers couldn't find the aircraft because they didn't know where to look. Her father wants you to think carefully about what search and rescue equipment you have on board, flight plan filing, flight following, and passenger briefings. The AOPA Air Safety Institute has a new online program on briefing passengers. You can find it at the URL you see on your screen. Something else to consider before you start to aviate: your engine isn't the only thing that needs fuel in flight, so do you. That's what Dr. Jonathan Sackier says in this edition of Flywell.
I have a pal who strictly forbids food or drink aboard his pristine airplane. That's all fine and dandy. But what about when one goes flying? For many reasons, it makes sense to have something to dine on when flying from point A to point B. And by the way, I've checked my GPS database and darned if I can find either one of these mythical yet oft-quoted locations. In the old days, one of the very few benefits to traveling with the airlines was that they fed and watered you. But nowadays, peanuts are mentioned in the same breath as arsenic. Food, if provided, is expensive, diminutive, and disgusting. So advantage to airlines lost. Why is it important for us to have victuals aboard? First, let's deal with fluids. During the day at sea level, one needs to be consuming several glasses a day. Although some may dispute the exact number, 6 or 8 tumblers full, most authorities would agree that this will depend on age, medical condition, and other factors such as medications one might be taking. Once soaring in the ether, due to diminished oxygen, breathing rate will increase, and as such, one will lose more fluid through the lungs. If breathing supplemental oxygen, and I'm a big fan as it is, after all, my favorite gas, this loss is increased as oxygen delivered from cylinders is totally dry, so acts as a desiccant. Now, as to which fluid, coffee, or for this tea-drinking Englishman, tea is not a good choice, as the caffeine is a diuretic and stimulates one to need to empty the bladder. It can also make one abnormally jittery. Similarly, caffeine-containing soft drinks are to be avoided. Not only do they have the drawbacks of coffee, but the gas can expand in your gut as you climb, causing abdominal discomfort and, how can I say this politely, that gas can find its way out into the cockpit environment, forcing the inhabitants to suffer the consequences. I recommend a non-carbonated water-based drink, maybe with some natural flavorings, electrolytes and so on. And especially on a hot day, be cognizant of the need to increase intake. As for foods, again avoid those that might induce gas. So a burrito, whilst delightful eating, should be consumed on the ground and not in close proximity to any upcoming flights. Similarly, very salty foods should be avoided as they will increase one's desire for fluid, and anyway, they're not good for you in high amounts. I recommend things like bananas, snack bars with condensed fruit and nuts, high energy, low residue and convenient foods to eat whilst you're focusing on flying the aeroplane. Very similar rules apply to what to eat before flight, and this applies to your passengers also. So stay healthy, well-fed and watered as you make your way through the sheltering sky, and stay in touch with Pilot Protection Services for further useful tips.
Thanks, Jonathan. Well, finally this week, remember two friends of ours. Jane Wicker and Charlie Schwenker were fixtures at the Bilton Flying Circus in Virginia, only about 60 nautical miles from us in Frederick. As you probably know by now, the veteran wing walker and her pilot were killed at the Vectron Dayton Air Show. As a final salute, we go to the AOPA Live archives to share with you some never-before-seen video of Jane Wicker in flight. I'm Tom Haynes. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
In 1990, I was taking flying lessons. I had my private license, and I saw the wing walking done, and the Flying Circus put an advertisement in the newspaper. It said wing walker wanted, no experience necessary. The airplane, I was trying to find a name that fit, and I was trying to find something that fit the color scheme, fit the airplane type, and also fit my whole life and the whole reason I got back into this. And Aurora has a couple different meanings. It's the goddess of the sun. It means sunrise, actually, and it also means new beginnings. And so as my restart, a new beginning in the air show industry, I thought it was absolutely perfect.
my favorite part is coming down and seeing everybody's reaction to something they have never seen before. It inspires people, it gets them all excited.